SNNEWS Radio. Thank you so much for coming in with Indacarseat DatGuY, StreetNOW News. Your Jake, Terry Dwayne Ashford. Good morning, it's Terry Dwayne Ashford. We're coming live with you about you at 6:45 a.m. this Wednesday morning. We're coming just to give you some teachings here on what happened. Very interesting thing that's happened already this morning. We're trying to teach you. We did something this morning to get reaction from the Badgering so that we can teach you with that. Well, this morning, the person that we reported that tried to start some incidents with us yesterday at Target, his name was Khalli. He was a person who actually, while we were shopping inside of Target, that particular employee of Target, right there at the corner of Georgia Avenue and Piney Branch, that particular employee got on his mic and started to speak negatively, derogatorily, and in falsification to someone on his walkie-talkie right there in front of the victim's face in Target, a shopper who didn't know him from John Doe to Jack Blow. This particular incident occurred on Tuesday evening at the Target right there at Blair Road and at Georgia Avenue. Well, we reported on that incident on yesterday. SNNEWS, Terry Dwayne Ashford did. And when we reported on that, let's give you a background of that particular reporting. When we reported on it, what rushed up, sneaking from behind, was the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police, who had planned to go into the backside of the Target. And that particular Washington, D.C. police was identified in MPD vehicle 945. It was a female woman, a lady female, and that particular lady female then was intended to go into the backside of the Washington, D.C., of the Target, as a Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police, and to pull whatever happened and to develop a scheme from that. Well, the journalist, SNNEWS, Terry Dwayne Ashford, was standing right there in the back waiting. We rushed up because we were waiting, and we knew exactly what was patternized and what was supposed to have happened. Well, this morning we have a piggyback from all of that. You can read that story, by the way, on our tweet station, which is indicated in the narrative of this particular broadcast. This morning, the Badgering. We expected it. We baited it so that we can inform you of what happens. What happened this morning was the Khalli who actually attempted to violate. Khalli who attempted to violate Terry Dwayne Ashford yesterday morning. Then this morning walked toward Terry Dwayne Ashford's vehicle as we parked right there on the corner of Military Road. On Military Road is the intersection. I think the name of the street is, I think it's 12th Street Northwest. We're going to correct that in the narrative if there is any correction that is needed. But I think it's 12th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., right 2 blocks from the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department 4D. Well, that particular badgering black male employee of Target was supposed to wait for emotion from the person who he had previously badgered the day before. So yesterday he badgers. Today he comes around the person strategically in order to force or to try to get emotion. That's called baiting. Terry Dwayne Ashford, we knew that. And what we did was we made comments inside of our car with our window cracked. That's the one right there yesterday. Now we're in the car by ourselves. We made the comments in the car by ourselves. So when he walked so close to the vehicle. And we knew that this was supposed to happen because we knew what the strategy was. The strategy now was to bait us into a fight, and that fight was going to be transposed as something else by the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer, possibly led by the police officer in the vehicle 945. Police officer in the vehicle 945. We'll be right on back to tell you more about that. A few short moments. You're with Terry Dwayne Ashford right now, StreetNOW News. We're coming in with you on Wednesday morning, May 5th. This particular broadcast is happening at Montague and 16th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. At the 1400 block of Montague here in Washington, D.C. And also in the corner of 16th Street is where this particular broadcast is occurring right now. There at 16th Street and Montague is with representation of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police in Vehicle 945 approached Indacarseat DatGuy, Terry Dwayne Ashford. Right there at the alley, the representation of that Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police officer tried to sick her dog. Well, not really. Yeah, I'm going to say she didn't say the word sick to the big brown dog. But what she did is she walked past the vehicle as this particular broadcast was going on. It was a Caucasian in the exact same form of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police. A Caucasian woman in the exact same format. Looked almost identical except for the face and the color of the skin changed. Was of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police woman in Vehicle 945 that we reported the day before yesterday on Tuesday. That particular Caucasian woman this morning during this particular broadcast taking a photograph out beside the car attempted to sick her dog at Terry Dwayne Ashford as he just stood right there. The big dog, and she didn't pull the dog back. So we had to tell her to pull your dog back and to learn how to manage her dogs while she's on the street. It's a huge dog. That is what we had to tell her right there. Now, we wanted to share with you that the image of that particular lady who attempted to sick her dog on Terry Dwayne Ashford was the image of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police that we reported on yesterday in MPD Vehicle 945. Reported for you, I'm Terry Dwayne Ashford, coming right back to the Khalli story. We're jumping right on back into that Khalli story. Now, that Khalli story shows that the exact same man at the Target that tried to push and shove and falsify and lie right there in the face of Indacarseat DatGuy, Terry Dwayne Ashford, on a shopper who didn't know him from this person to that person, that same Target employee then was placed or planted near Terry Dwayne Ashford commute right there on Military Road and 12th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. That particular man walked so close to the vehicle saying nothing, signaling with the intention of badgering. Now, what he wanted me to do was there was testing right then to see what level of anger Terry Dwayne Ashford have. Well, Terry Dwayne Ashford has no anger. He says that out of his mouth. But professionally, when we are doing reporting, We do reporting that tests you just like you thought you were going to test us. So that is what we decided to do this morning. We decided to test this man. Yeah, and we spoke inside of our car as he walked so close to the cracked window of the car. Yes, he's walked so close to the cracked window of the car that he could probably hear Terry Dwayne Ashford inside of his car saying, "That is the man yesterday from Target that made the falsified statement." Well, the falsified statement was made as a badger. Failed. This morning, that exact same man came to badger in emotion and seeing the person coming near him that tried to lie on him the day before. It was simply a badger by the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police. We already knew that. And then, guess what we did? So we decided to badger you to see how you handled your own situation. To see how you handled your own situation, we badgered you and we made comments inside of our car. We're going to make sure now, we're going to watch you go back and report it and see what you're going to do with it. You're saying the objective for the incident this morning was to bring the same person who carried out the crime yesterday around the victim and to force the victim to show emotion, and then that emotion would be used by the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police to carry out a sabotaging event on behalf of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police, staged by the woman in a 945 vehicle represented by the woman this morning who tried to sick the dog on Terry Dwayne Ashford. And what we did this morning is we handled that. We saw that and we handled that. We handled that with vigor. And what we did, we handled it without any anger whatsoever. But we also handled it with act. We acted just like you. We staged an event that would have baited you to carry out your deceit behind the scene. Why? Because we're going to lock this Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police officer away. Yes, we are targeting you. 945 was the vehicle number. It was a black female. She was running around. She tried to rush behind the scene after having staged an attack on Terry Dwayne Ashford at the Target on the corner of Piney Branch and Georgia Avenue on yesterday on May 4th. Well, today is May 5th. It's Wednesday morning, and they brought back the same badgering, harassing Target employee and brought him onto the streets. Terry Dwayne Ashford allowed him to hear him on the street. He said, do something inside of his car. Inside of his car, because one, you have no reason to be so close to me unless you're trying to start some mess. We're going to give you a chance to start the mess that you thought you wanted. So we said, that's the one right there, inside of our car. And that's the one right there. We waited for him to do something. We already knew the police was guiding you, and we were waiting for the police because we'll lock that bitch away. We're gonna lock your bitch ass away when you try to run fucking win this Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police. We're gonna lock your bitch ass motherfucker away when you try the wrong one. That's done without anger. That's done with professionalism. The Caucasian female that tried to sick her dog this morning was representing the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police in vehicle 945, reported on May 4, 2021 by Terry Dwayne Ashford at the Target situation right there at the corner of Blair Road and Georgia Avenue. Woo-hoo! Terry Dwayne Ashford here. We report that without any anger at all. We report that with vigor, professionalism, passion. And what we're going to do is we're going to win. Because we have an objective in this particular case. We're going to show this Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police the hell they can fuck with.